Welcome, everybody, to Extra Time. I'm David Gass, alongside my soccer. I'm not even going to say partner, because it's not like a general thing. You are just soccer. You just are soccer. The beautiful game, and it's essence. Tom Bogert here, as it's Andrew Wiebe's birthday. So happy birthday. You helped celebrate with him.
I did.
Yesterday.
It was wonderful.
You showed him the Jersey Shore.
I did show Andrew Wiebe the Jersey Shore. It's also his youngest son's birthday, so happy birthday to Wyatt. Andrew.
Wyatt doesn't listen to the show.
That's okay. Well, I know that there's a tear in Wiebe's eyes because his favorite thing, Extra Time, and his more favorite thing is family. We're talking about his son's birthday on the show, and he's going to be very happy to hear this when he hears this, if he's not listening live some way through the control room. But yeah, so Andrew Wiebe and his family came down to the Jersey Shore. He was in elite dad mode. It was a joy to watch. Yeah. And so they're on the beach, and I live a mile down the road by a different beach. So I was like, I'll just meet you on the boardwalk, have your day. I'm not going to crash your whole family day. And I could see him and his family from the boardwalk. Wiebe's got bucket hat. He's got this like dad vibe, got the umbrella, a little like thing to drag.
Got the butler. We used to call it the beach butler in my family. Yeah. We'd have a chair with wheels that you just rattle along the beach.
It was awesome to watch, and just with the kids, it was definitely just elite dad mode day for him. And then we got some food and some beverages. Nice. The kids were knocked out. Yeah, like incredible.
Beach is a tough one.
They loved it.
A lot of sun.
They loved it. That was the thing. Like there's like water parks and stuff on the board, stuff like that. I was like, I don't know how much other things you guys need for recommendations. So I was like, we'll send you here, because if the kids don't like the ocean or they get bored, like there's other stuff to do. He's like, dude, they love the sand. That's all that matters. And so they loved making Andrew go and get shells for them. So I appreciate that detail too.
What beach are you?
So we were in Asbury Park.
Okay.
And I now live in Bradley Beach, which is less than a mile away from where they were. So
is that like pure boardwalk where it's like cotton candy, funnel cakes, like rides and stuff?
It's not like rides, but like there's more attractions on the boardwalk in Asbury.
Because I'm a Wildwood guy, as you know.
It's not that.
That's big boardwalk. That's big boardwalk.
Man, Asbury's the greatest. And then Wiebe's kids were incredible too. And my girlfriend,
hold on,
my girlfriend came with us, and the boys liked me. They loved her. Just not even clear. It is no contest of who Wiebe's kids preferred, me versus my girlfriend.
They just didn't care about the breaking news. That you weren't like, hey, did you hear Brendan Aronson went to Union Berlin? And Cameron's like, I don't care about this.
His dad tells him all the time, so that's probably it. Like,
decent. That's a decent amount. I don't think they are big fans of the Extra Time space, because they have to listen to it like all the time. Then they got to listen to Andrew at home. I think at some point you just get tired of it. So do you think Andrew is New Jersey now? Like,
oh my God. How quickly he was like, dude, this drive wasn't even that bad. Like all this wasn't, he's just like ready to start planning again and again. I was like, you just let me know, man. You come right down.
Classic Wiebe went to New Jersey for 3 months, did nothing, and was like, I don't really like New Jersey. And you're like, you should probably try something first before you do it. So Jersey Shore guy now, happy birthday to Andrew Wiebe. Shout out to the legend Eric Gonsalves, who got married this weekend as well. An MLS legend, used to work around our Extra Time parts, and goes by Figo for a reason. So kind of a god, and he got married. So congratulations to him. Do we have anything else before off the top?
So should we like an Oscars acceptance speech?
Do we have other stuff?
There's music that'll probably play.
Congratulations to Kalen Carr on misscheduling his flights and not being here for this show. So we do it on our own. Shout out to MLS Extra Time legend Hayden Heath as well, who had popped in earlier to help us pre-prep and then left for the show.
Yeah, good to see.
No, Hayden. Yeah. Kalen, Kyle also not here, but Hayden obviously though.
That's right. We get to just run the high pick and roll 2-man game all day here.
All day. I'm not even worried about it. We're basically we're Hani. Who's else with Hani?
You calling me Ake Loba?
No, I don't know who else. There's like some players where it's like two soccer players that literally can just play together and create chances.
Miguel Marone and Joseph Martinez.
We're probably Bernadeschi and Insigne.
No, because we'd be sitting on different sides of the table. The camera wouldn't even get us. We'd have to have our own camera.
Just doing two separate shows. I'm like, oh, let's talk USMNT. And you're just talking Atlanta United as we go in separate ways. So we've got a big show coming up. USA, Canada. We will talk about Gold Cup as the U.S. is moving on. And this is a U.S. and Canadian-based show. So we've got a lot to talk about there. Big weekend of MLS action. A lot of the teams lower down the table got some big victories. So a little shift there. We'll talk about some new teams. We'll talk about some new players that came into MLS, some big signings that have gone down as well, especially for the Colorado Rapids. Yes, you heard me right. The Colorado Rapids making a big signing. We won't talk about Orlando City. We'll talk about a couple other transfer moves and expectations that we have. And then we'll preview the midweek action. So reminder, I believe it's 9 matches coming up on Wednesday night. All of them, of course, available to you on MLS Season Pass, highlighted by the first ever matchup between St. Louis and LAFC. A lot of times when the season gets really hectic, we like don't focus the way we should on the big matches. This is huge.
It should be fun. And like St. Louis have proved, again, we'll dive into this later, but that like doesn't matter who's missing, it seems like they're always like a fun game. So I'm looking forward to that.
And it'll be interesting to see how LAFC handles their style, because they are both very committed to what they do and how they play. Let's start with the US and Canada. 2-2 draw at TQL Stadium, 3-2 win in the shootout in the end. And I wanted to talk about this game at the top because I like juice. And this game had juego to it. Like, I kind of tuned in and was like, not the best US team. This Canada team, as we said on the show last time, is bad. But now we are in a space, the same with US and Mexico, where anytime they're on the field together, you know you're going to get something. And that's like exciting because you don't get enough of them in CONCACAF. There's not a ton of rivalry. I don't feel a lot of rivalry with Costa Rica. I know other US fans feel differently. None with Panama, very little with Honduras, a lot with El Salvador now, which I love.
But I'd say those games are always like always have an edge, whether there's like a rivalry, something budding. So like, I don't know. This somehow took it to another level in like the CONCACAF stuff. So it is fun, but like I will say, any CONCACAF game, maybe it's just watching so much MLS that it's like people aren't hating each other as much because it's not international games. But there's always an edge to those games with El Salvador.
So we already know Richie Laryea is going to stir the pot. I think Richie got on the bus before the game and was like, at some point, Matt Miazga is going to try and come after me.
I think he wakes up and thinks that.
I think he does too. And he like knew who to poke buttons. But it was Kamal Miller, who's like the calmest, nicest guy in the world. He's starting to stir the pot a little bit. Jonathan Osorio also wakes up that way every single game. And then on the US side, I think you had guys like rise to the bait and also feel it. But it's just, again, last Thursday, I was like, this Canada team, they played so poorly in the group stage and they didn't play with intensity and they didn't play with edge. And then you come out of this game and it is now every single time these two teams are matched up, you circle it. And when you talk about for the US and Canada being hosts at 2026, and it's like, how do you get high level games for these teams to make them like work without having qualifying? Anytime they face off now in any competition, it's going to be like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, that there are going to be high level, like meaningful games. Because again, this isn't the first choice roster for either side. Probably even less so for the United States, just because the pool's a little bit deeper, even though Canada's top players are more important for them just because of the relative lack of depth. But yeah, so whenever there's these, fireworks that are going off in the game, and again, like Laryea, like it felt a little slow at the beginning, and maybe that's because the referee had an injury, so there was a 10-minute stoppage right after the game started. But it was just like, it was building towards halftime, and then at halftime happened was when the players were coming together while Fox was trying to go to a commercial break, and like thankfully they stayed just long enough. It was like, oh, Matt Miazga's off the bench and in, and like Jesus Ferreira is a guy that doesn't back down. Right. I love that. Like these are things that I love to see. Again, I think it's even more important in the national games rather than the club. But like, I don't know. Maybe it's just like I'm a Jersey guy and I'm a hardo and just an idiot when like men's league stuff. But it's just like, I love that stuff. I love when dudes are committed. I love when there's like emotion and passion, as long as you're on that edge and not going too far over it and getting dumb red cards or dumb cards, whatever, right? Like, again, I thought that like Richie Laryea was a little bit of a clown when he stood over Zendaya. He fouled him. Yeah. And Zendaya didn't complain, didn't dive or anything, and Laryea stood over him. Like, I still love that. Like, I mean, like if you're an American player on the field, like you're like, oh, what the heck are you doing? Like, whatever. But like, I don't mind it for Laryea. Like, it's all part of the game. So that was a lot of fun. The late fireworks, goals were in the 87th, 93rd, and then 2 in extra time to get it to the PK shootout that the United States won 3-2. So yeah, it was a lot more fun, I think, than I thought it was going to be going into that game, just because of how down Canada seemed. And again, the United States, like, they had their wins against St. Kitts and Nevis and Trinidad. They didn't look great against Jamaica, so I was like, what is this game going to be? But yeah, it was fun.
So I like the way you said, though, like, if you can use the intensity and the grit to get you to the line without going over. And for Canada, I think that was huge in this game, and that they were the ones who underperformed in the group stage. Yep. Like, this game should not have happened. No. They drew Guadeloupe at home in Toronto. They got to host the game in Canada, which they always kind of fight for. They drew Guadeloupe. They draw Guatemala. They beat Cuba, which they had to. They basically rotated, even though it was must win, kind of knowing they'd win. So this didn't have to be a matchup. If Canada wins their group, they would have played Qatar. which is probably a better matchup in the U.S. than playing the U.S. And they'd probably be in a semifinal. But I think a big moment coming out of this that John Herdman, who we've talked a little bit more about, is there's not real pressure. There have been question marks, big games. They have not shown up. Nations League final. They were not prepared for that. Like, they were not ready to be on that field. They were not at the intensity level of the U.S. They were not sharp. And when we look back at the last 3 years and you say they took the game to Mexico in Mexico City, they took the game to Mexico in a Gold Cup semifinal without Davies and David, and you look at what they did against the U.S., the game in Nashville, and then at home, they weren't at that level of the Nations League final. This group obviously talent-wise wasn't, but they got back to, they believed they could win.
Yeah.
They believed they should win, and they played that way. And I think they pushed the U.S. over the line more than they endangered themselves there.
I agree.
And that is like massive for this team because it's a country of like 35 million people. You can't just add talent. Like, at some point, you have to overcome the odds and overplay your talent. And Herdman showed again, which hadn't been in a little while, that he was capable of getting them.
And that's when they're at their best. They're at their best when they got the dog in them. They're at their best when they're kicking people after play. Like, that's, and it sounds like it's a criticism, but it's not. Like, that is such an important aspect, again, particularly international play. If you have a team that's really, really difficult to beat, like, it makes it so much harder. And when, like, again, this isn't their best group, they don't have as much talent as they normally would, you have to have that baseline of just being really difficult to beat, being really combative, being like, F you, I'm not going to get beat here. And so with the collective is playing like that, it's just so much better for Canada because they can't sleepwalk through these games and just win on talent. Like, even when they have their first choice lineup out there, but particularly with this, and they have a lot of dudes that play. They have, like, again, Larea and even Tajon Buchanan and like go all the way down the line. Like, every player to a man in this team.
Even like Dane St. Clair.
Yeah, they all have it in them. And that's phenomenal. And like, that's what makes average teams better and good teams great, like, is when you have the combination of the technical and tactical aspect with that, like, I'm just not going to lose. Like, I'm going to fight for every inch. I'm going to fight for whatever. So again, it's so important for Canada in particular because that's when they're at their best.
If you didn't watch this game somehow and you're trying to figure out what we're talking about, just go watch from the coin toss for the shootout on, because something happened with who's the home team, who's the away team. Matt Turner, furious about what's going on during the coin toss. Steven Vittoria doesn't care. Then Canada wins. They shoot first, and they got to pick the side. Not totally sure what happened there. And then the U.S. players line up like at the edge of the circle. And so then the Canada players do the same, and the ref comes over and chose to start with Canada and is like, you guys have to move back. And Jonathan Osorio just goes, we're not moving till they move. It's the dumbest thing in the world. It literally does not matter.
Guys being dudes, man.
And it was just like, I was like, yes, this is what I want. Then Dane St. Clair trolls, I don't remember who the first shooter for the U.S. was. Was it Jesus? No, Jesus went later. I don't remember who it was. Like, holds the ball to slow things down. So then Matt Turner makes the next save and sprints to the sideline, sliding over to get the ball so that he could set it up, I think, for Cade Cowell as quickly as he wanted to say, like, screw you, Dane St. Clair.
Yeah.
And what I do like about, so there's obviously heavy connections between a lot of these players. And then there's more tenuous ones, which is like Matt Turner and Dane St. Clair definitely know each other. They're both goalkeepers who played in MLS. I don't think they're friends. But I like that there's that like familiarity and contempt all sitting in the same spot. Matt Turner is elite. He is the first American goalkeeper to save multiple penalties in a shootout since Casey Keller did so in 2002 against Canada. He has saved 44% of the penalty kicks he's faced for the U.S. Sorry, 44% I believe have missed.
Correct. Or just haven't gone in.
Yes. So people shoot over, people shoot wide, but that's the intimidation of Matt Turner.
Incredible.
It's just, when you look at a goalkeeper, he is really the only locked-in first-team starter in this group.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, how can you affect the game as a goalkeeper? He maxed that out last night.
Couldn't have done more.
Run of play, captaining, shootout. Like, this guy he's an Arsenal player for a reason, and he's showing it.
Yeah, he was awesome, and it's great that he's in this tournament. Like going back, I know we've already talked about this on the show, but he asked to play in this tournament, which is awesome. I don't know, man. Like, this show, I think, more so than anywhere, had been saying for years that Turner should be the number one. Turner should be the number one. Turner should be the number one. So, like, I like, we're not surprised by this. Like, this is exactly what we've been hoping to see. And then when you talk about this is the only nailed in, locked on first team starter. some other takeaways, big picture, looking forward, and like around this group, because this isn't like again exactly the first team in the attack. What I really want to see is a 4-2-3-1 or something to that effect with Jesus Ferreira underneath Brandon Vasquez.
Start Brandon Vasquez.
Really upset that we haven't gotten that yet because I think the makeup of the group works for that so well. I think that Jesus Ferreira is a very good center forward in a 4-3-3. I think he's even better as like this 9.5 or whatever you want to call it underneath. And then the way that you balance this out is you have Kate Cal on one side, who's someone who's going to be a little bit more direct or a little bit more dynamic. And then maybe Gressel on the other side or somebody, or Zendejas, or just insert anybody more technical. Mihailovic can play out there too if you wanted to keep Busio and Sands in the midfield. So for me, like, I'd really like to see that. And I think that'd be super useful both against these teams in CONCACAF and the Gold Cup, because you have a lot of really good crossers wide if Gressel's on the field, and then obviously the fullbacks, and Vasquez's aerial presence. And then that frees up space underneath for Jesus Ferreira to do a lot of the other things that he does really well, like outside of his just number 9 stuff, like his getting on the ball, his creativity, his flair, and like when there's more space for him to maneuver a little bit more free than occupying center forwards, like I'd really like to see that. And I'm upset that that hasn't been more of like a focal point. Once
Vasquez came on the field, Ferreira even dropping deep, helping defensively, helping build out, he was super effective. And then credit, I already said it, but to TQL. Like, this place is an elite atmosphere. I think one of the stars of the night was the atmosphere in the stadium. It was Guatemala first, which draws a great crowd across the U.S. They've been so fun to watch this tournament. But then you throw in when Brandon Vasquez and Matt Miazga came on the field, and Miazga said it in the postgame, he's like, it came to another level when we entered, which also start Brandon Vasquez, like in Cincinnati of all places. That whole thing's a little bit weird. It feels like a little bit too, like, he's not our center forward, so we don't start him. Versus, it's a tournament. Just figure it out as you go along. And it feels like Brian Reynolds won his spot, and DeJuan Jones won his spot. Jalen Neal won a spot. Youngest starting center back in a knockout competition in U.S. history. But Brandon Vasquez can't win a spot. It feels weird, but it brought it to another level. Vasquez was dangerous. He was obviously effective. He scored a goal. He almost scored on his first touch. And I agree with you in seeing, in watching Ferreira play underneath him. They could be really fun. They now move on. They played Panama in the semifinals. I think Panama are favorites. Like, I genuinely think the way Panama is playing, I think Coco Carrasquilla might be the best player in this tournament.
He's awesome.
So watch out for everyone.
I want the record to show that I do not also agree that Panama are not the favorites.
Jamaica versus Panama in the final. Those are my picks. Mexico going down. USA going down. Maria in my ear complaining about it. Don't worry, Maria. You guys only brought like your A team and you're still going to lose. Classic Mexico on top of that. Maria's complaining about Santi Jimenez being on the bench. So the U.S. knocks off Canada once again. That's why Kaylin Kyle's not on. She's still sort of upset about the whole thing. And it was a fun matchup. Congratulations, I think, to Canada in, as I said last week, finding out that Ali Ahmed and Moises Pampito are national team level players. I thought Dane Sinclair has been pretty good as well. So Zach McGraw stepping in, being a factor in this game. It was a pretty strong performance overall in this match for Canada. As we move on here to a few notes before we leave national team. Someone, and if you're not watching on Apple TV, I'm pointing at Tom Bogert, broke the news that Brendan Aronson is headed back to Germany. No, not back to Germany, because he played for
Germany.
Yeah, he played for Salzburg, which is a different RB team. He's going to Germany for the first time to play for Union Berlin on loan. For the year. So it's Champions League for him. From championship to Champions League.
Yeah, I love this fit for Brendan Aronson, and this move has since gone official. It was announced, I believe, yesterday. Brendan Aronson's fit in the Bundesliga, I think, is going to be really, really good. When he was leaving the Philadelphia Union, when Salzburg ended up signing him, I know that there was like 6 or 8 Bundesliga teams that really liked him, so they've obviously been tracking him. They weren't going to spend the $30 million or whatever it cost Leeds to get him. And again, Leeds was a good fit. Bielsa was trying to sign him before he got fired, and then Jesse Marsch as well. So I always kind of wanted to see him in the Bundesliga, and I cannot think of a better fit that he gets to play Champions League soccer, and it should be at a team where he's playing all the time. Like, he's not going to like Dortmund and like. With Gio Reyna is a really, really good player, but it's difficult to get into that starting 11. Like, the fact that they can have Champions League soccer and like a pretty good path to playing is really good for me. I couldn't be happier with the fit. I've seen people joking that, hey, Paxton Aronson, who plays for Eintracht Frankfurt, Paxton, if you're reading this, like, just know referees can't give cards for brother-on-brother challenges, so just be ready for that. I'm looking forward to seeing a couple Aronsons in the Bundesliga. And again, for me, like, I'm not sure what if I don't think that there's a purchase option or whatever the financial terms are, I would love to see him permanently in the Bundesliga, whether it's with Union Berlin in a year, depending on how things go. A lot can change. But again, I can't say enough positive things about this move.
Your assumption is if you're Leeds, you're hoping you go back up and then you can reassess with like, do you want to play for us in the Premier League again, where your contract we can afford probably at a higher level. Either way, though, this is a Union Berlin team that doesn't spend, like they are not a big club. Last year was a surprise. They did well. So as you said, that means Aronson's going to play. He's going to get opportunities. He should fit the team very well. They play against the ball a lot. They play direct. They play in transition. 2 center forwards for him to sort of play under, which I think is when he's at his best, whether it's coming in off the wing or centrally. So that's really exciting. He is one of 3 national team players that is moving to a Champions League team from a non-Champions League team. Christian Pulisic, the rumor?
It's happening. It's nothing.
Pulisic's going to AC Milan.
It's going to, nothing's been announced or official yet, or I guess things could go wrong, but like 99% there. Like it's a deal that made too much sense. Like I was talking like AC Milan and Chelsea. I think they both knew that like the player Pulisic wanted to go there. AC Milan wanted him. Chelsea wanted to offload him. And it took a little while. It wasn't that long to be fair for the both sides to get onto the same fee that they accepted. So yeah.
It's like the 6th player to come from Chelsea to Milan in the last 3 years. It's been wild, which makes sense if you're Milan of like, you guys buy too many players.
Yep.
We'll take everyone at half the price.
Yeah. They bought Christian Pulisic for 70 million. And now I think the deal is 22 million to AC Milan because he's 1 year left in his contract, not playing. They have about 100 attackers that they're not playing. So
it's good business if you can get it. Am I right? We should just start acquiring players. And then Ricardo Pepi heading to PSV Eindhoven, played at Groningen on loan, but Augsburg, obviously not a Champions League team. So Pepi now will be in the Champions League as well. So that's a big move for him.
Yeah, I like that fit as well. Like he did very well in the Eredivisie. Again, this is about playing time as well, just for him wherever he goes. But at least, like unlike Augsburg in a relegation fight when he got there, not doing a whole lot of attacking. That's a difficult spot to kind of be into. PSV, particularly the league games, they're going to be expected to dominate possession and chances the whole time. So I think this would be a better fit for Pepi, who again, like he played on a team that got relegated in the Netherlands last year and still scored 15 goals or whatever his goal total was. Yeah. Scored a lot of goals for a team that wasn't very good.
12 in the end.
So going to a team that, again, if he's playing the starting minutes at center forward, like he's going to score a lot of goals.
Yeah, so watch out, Maria, because he's going to be better than Santi Jimenez without even trying. So that's the big move coming up. So for the U.S., headed to a Gold Cup semifinal here, won the Nations League once again a few weeks ago. Could it be a double-double summer for the 2nd time in 3 years? Maybe. On top of that, some positive moves, it feels like, for players in the pool. I think Timothy Weah to Juventus, also positive, but Juve are not technically a Champions League team because of the points deduction. So I think
that's how AC Milan got in, unless that I'm misremembering the
maybe,
table.
I don't know.
So I think it would only have been one.
It's a farmers league, so who knows? Am I right, Thomas? And we continue on here. Let's jump into Matchday 24 in Major League Soccer. The best thing you saw. Tom, you go first.
Houston Dynamo's tiki-taka golazo. That was beautiful. A flick, I believe it was Corey Baird, the 3rd man runner, Hector Herrera coming in. And while that's all happening, the center forward peels off, and then it's a couple one-touch passes and then tap in. That was beautiful. I had a couple screens up, and like I saw the run for Hector Herrera come. I was like, oh my God. Oh, the back heel, he got it too. And then for Herrera being unselfish, I think if I was a center forward, they might have shot in that spot because you're technically 1-on-1 with the keeper. But I'm so happy that Hector Herrera rolled that across because that was a beautiful goal.
It was the first goal ever for Aliou as well in his MLS career. So as like a creative player, that's your job to set him up. And then the reaction, Hector Herrera runs away and then he just chest bumps him so hard.
They knew that it was a great, I think that was my favorite part about it is Hector Herrera knew that moment. Again, to continue the one-touch pass and then to immediately sprint away celebrating. It was like, you know, when a deep three-pointer goes in when a player's on a heat check and the arena's going crazy. I don't know. I loved it. And like on the negative side, but I still thought it was might have been one of the best things I saw in that same game. Sebastian Ferreira trying to harm, I think it was Gadi Kindo off the kickoff for reasons unknown.
Oh, yeah, and got a yellow card.
Gadi Kindo faked the restart after a goal, and Sebastian Ferreira didn't like that and ran up to him and pushed him to the ground.
So I kind of agree with Sebas Ferreira here. Like anyone who fakes kickoffs, they do this all the time where they fake a kickoff, they get someone to jump, and then they take the kickoff as the person's walking back. And it's like, it's a kickoff. Do not make this a whole thing. Do not make someone now retreat back. It always drives me nuts when they do that. So I respect Sebas Ferreira. But it was also funny that I kind of felt like it was such a weird moment that the ref would just be like, all right, let's redo this. I didn't even think a yellow card would be shown.
Are you serious?
I don't know.
Most people were like, why wasn't it a red? And you're like, no harm, play on.
Nah, come on. No blood, no foul. I thought you were going to say that SKC's first goal was also gorgeous. They won it on the turnover. Kinda back heel. Pulido chips the keeper. He had 2 goals in this game. Yeah. He's awesome right now.
Contract year, Alan Pulido, man.
Yeah, so contract's up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
If you had to pick, does he play for Sporting Kansas City in 2024?
I don't know. I mean, I'd still lean against it just because I'm assuming that Chivas are going to come in pretty heavily for him. And, you know, if you're Kansas City, do you want to be on this roller coaster again where he's played, what, like 35% of the minutes essentially over this time? Like, I don't know, you can't rely on him enough. So I love when he's playing. I think he's really, really good when he's fit. It is just, I think that's too much of a question mark to use one of your DP spots on. And like he, deservingly, for sure, would get DP money in Mexico. So you can't get him on a max TAM deal. Again, all of this is my assumptions, but we'll see.
It is wild because they've tried for a center forward for about 15 years now. He's got 10 goals and 3 assists this year, and they might lose him to nothing, but they could win something with him in between. That was an awesome moment. Mine, the Colorado Rapids, the first home win of the season, their first goal since May 31st in all MLS action, home and away. This is what we live for. The Rapids are back, baby. It feels good. Maxu on a corner kick, although they went down 1-0 in this game. And then Brian Galvan, I believe it was his first penalty kick in a competitive game, and he Panenka'd. That's just like, bro, you haven't won a home game yet. Just put your head down and hit it, but he didn't.
Can't teach that sauce.
Can't teach that. Cannot teach that. Wheels off to the corner and celebrates. My brother-in-law and my nieces were in the crowd, all in jerseys. So if the Rapids want to get the info and start to get them in the stadium more, because it feels like they're good luck. You're welcome, by the way, Robin and Porig. Just hit me up, and we'll work on transfer fees and allocation money and all that stuff.
I have the discovery rights. You got to acquire them from me.
Yeah, exactly. Like this, as I said, it's good business if you can get it. This is my Christian Pulisic right now, if we need it. So the Rapids get their first home win. Congratulations to them. Obviously, the last team in MLS to get a home victory. And reports coming out. You're reporting.
Yes, I reported.
Not official yet, though.
Not yet. And when you're listening to this, it might go. My expectations will be official very shortly. But Colorado Rapids have signed Brazilian forward Rafael Navarro from Palmeiras on loan. It's a $500,000 loan fee and a $4.5 million purchase option. So this would be a $5 million total package if it works out and they keep him, which would double their club record signing. And like, I don't know how many times they've paid even more than $1 million for a player. It might be like twice. Yeah. So this is, again, whether or not we know for sure if he's going to be good or not, I think it's a really positive sign that the club appear to be ready to sign a player for a potential $5 million package. His best season was at Botafogo. He had 15 goals and 9 assists, I believe, off the top of my head, when they won the Brazilian second tier. Then he was a free agent because his contract expired. Minnesota United tried really hard to sign him. They thought that they were going to sign him, but Palmeiras came in late and got him. And he had like 7 goals in like 400 minutes in the Copa Libertadores, which is his like best form with Palmeiras. But that's a team. They're like, people have been comparing him to like, you know, on loan from Chelsea. It's like on loan from Palmeiras. They're like the Brazilian Chelsea where they have so many players. So it's tough to break into that team. So again, Rafael Navarro is going to come to the Colorado Rapids and in their mind, hopefully be their leading scorer. They've had, I think, like twice over the last 12 years, their leading scorer has scored more than like 11 goals. One of it was last year, Diego Rubio, who only has 1 this season. So like they're one of these teams that are perpetually searching for that like go-to number 9, and they believe that Rafael Navarro is going to be the answer to that.
Was it Kevin Doyle? Kyle Doyle? The Irish guy? They had an Irish center forward. He was not good. No one has been good for them. Yeah, was it Kevin? Someone just hit me with a Kevin. Yeah. It has, goals cost money.
Yeah.
We say that all the time on this show. It is the one position, it's really hard to get pennies on the dollar at that position. You can find fullbacks or center mids where you're like, they fit our system better. People are underrating them. They're ready for this step. Goals are fairly obvious, which is if a guy scores goals, you're not going to get them for cheap because they're already scoring goals. And the Rapids have kind of operated pennies on the dollar a lot. So it is exciting to see them make this move.
And they've been really, really good at, again, like you said, the fullbacks or center mids. Like, maybe not like this era, but the era that led to them finishing first in the Western Conference in 2021. Like, look at that team. They traded for Kelvin Acosta. They traded for Mark-Anthony Kaye. They brought Cole Bassett through the academy. Traded for Keegan Rosenberry, Austin Trusty. Like, going on down the list.
Abu Bakr.
Yeah, and Jonathan Lewis and Michael Barrios, too. Like, I think we all thought he was washed when he was leaving Dallas. He was very good that season. Like Dallas didn't put up a fight to let them go. Like these were just all they did so well going around the margins and maximizing whatever they could to level the playing field. And they were really good. And like you said, like forwards cost money, and that's really difficult to go pennies on the dollars for. So if they get this right, I have huge confidence in this group in general, because as long as they hit on their big swings, because they don't get to take a lot of big swings, then they can be competitive. So this is a really important signing for them. And at least the lower risk is that if it doesn't work out, you just get out of the loan and then you try again, right? Like, so I think this is a good spot where you turn ownership and be like, all right, well, you were ready to pay for this player. We need that again to try for somebody else. Like, so again, I'm not saying that this is not going to work out. For sure. I think that there are a lot of positives to this deal for the Colorado Rapids.
And it is a position in which they don't have someone. So it's not like you're displacing talent where it's like, who starts? True. It's Rubio's in a more comfortable position playing alongside a center forward. Lewis, Barrios, Cabral, they're all creators outside of that. Sam Nicholson, whoever you want to say.
And who can play off a center forward.
Everyone, I think, gets better by being put back into their position with a signing like this. And you give Robin Fraser some tools to play with here of, is it two forwards? Is it one forward? Whatever it is, he doesn't have a ton of options right now. He is a coach who has proven that he can be elite when he can change things up and keep other teams guessing. This year, with injuries, a large part of it, but also with the roster build, they haven't been able to do that. So I think exciting times for Rapids fan. I mean, you come out of this weekend, you got to go see, I believe they had 18,000 in the building. So you get to go see them win. No weather delay. That's probably as big a deal as anything. I do believe they still have to make up like 35 minutes against Portland.
It's Wednesday, I believe,
It's coming up this week, So you can get back onto the field and win again. And then you're potentially going to bring in a quote-unquote $5 million signing here at the center forward position. Let's jump into some big combos, and then we'll continue on with some transfers after that. Minnesota United falling at home 4-1 to Austin FC in Timu Puki's debut. Let's take a look at Austin FC here. Case in Buffalo on Twitter says, I'm curious since Austin FC has gone undefeated in the past 4 games, scored 11 goals in said games, picked up 19 points in the past 10 matches. To this current form warrant extra time to finally do a mid-season deep dive on this recent resurgence? I say yes. I wouldn't have read the tweet if I wasn't going to say yes, by the way.
No, and we'll keep it moving. All right.
Thank you, Kasich, for the tweet. And in other news, 4 Buffaloes on the highway. I don't know. I was trying to find a news clip, and I was like, what would I say? This Austin FC team, in my mind, and you can disagree with me, but they were obviously elite in the attack last year, and some of the numbers were outliers. But what made them so good was the way they could interchange across the front 4, and the big piece to me that's been missing this year is Diego Fagundes. He is different than the other options they have, which are all get out wide 1v1 demons. Rigoni, Ethan Finley, whatever Rodney Redis is, a little bit this year, but barely ever.
I might call some of these players demons, but go ahead.
Yeah, fair.
Haven't exactly been killers in the
nightmares just for their own team, not for the opposition. But Fagundes he's a facilitator, he's a chance creator, he's a high usage player from that left wing. He takes a lot of the responsibility that Driussi should have, which is you're the 10. If you look on the other side of this game at Reynoso, everything goes through him. Fagundes takes a lot of that, and when Fagundes comes inside and does that, you need guys to read that play. And I think it's very simple for Zardes. Like I saw in this game specifically, Fagundes comes inside, Zardes flares wide. Center back has to make a decision. Fullback has to make a decision. D-mid has to make a decision. Am I tracking Zardes? Am I tracking Fagundes? And now Driussi gets the ability to see all of that happen and say, here's where I could pop up. Here's where I could get open. That's what he's great at. That's what made him an MVP candidate and a Golden Boot leader last year. I think it's what Zardes is really good at, is just manipulating the game with his movement and then his finishing opportunities. And I think it fits Fagundes. And now whoever's on the other wing, the game is simplified. And if Rigoni's going to score, you know the game is simplified at this point. So that, to me, is the big difference of what we're seeing from Austin now versus the opening 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, this is a high IQ front 4 that started. It was Ethan Finley on the right, Diego Fagundes on the left, with Driussi underneath Zardes. And to your point, like because of the way that Fagundes comes in and that allows John Gallagher to come up and create the width on the left, when Driussi is at his best is when he's finding space and popping up wherever he needs to, and more of a 9.5 than say a 10, to your point, like Reynoso on the other side. So I've never been worried about the Austin attack. Like this team's going to score goals. They're going to keep the ball. They're very good in possession. It's when it breaks down. It's defending in transition. It's all that stuff. Brandon Craig was on the bench. Well, they almost cut the clean sheet here today, but again, 4-1. That's a great result. Everything's positive. We'll see how the defense kind of evolves and brings in Craig if he's ready for MLS minutes. And that was the big thing. Like, he hasn't gotten on the field for Philly because they have 2 defensive candidates of the year, defensive player of the year candidates in central defense, plus now Damian Lowe as the backup. So there wasn't an easy pathway to minutes, but he's been playing in the second team because they weren't. He needs to get ready. He's really good on the ball. He's going to fit with Austin really well in possession. It's about whether he's physically ready for just the defensive, banging that comes with other forwards and like the dirty stuff. Like, he's beautiful on the ball. So let's see what he's like again. And that's going to be really important in defensive transition when he starts getting on the field, because they brought him in to be playing a key role. Philly wouldn't let him go if he wasn't going to be playing.
They're not sending him somewhere else to not play.
So I'm going to that's what I'm going to be watching. Like, the 4 goals was awesome. And again, I think that this team attacking is really good when things are right. And I trust that things will often be right with this team attacking. It's just defensively. And what are they going to look like?
It is going to be fun to watch Craig. We brought up Austin Trusty a few moments ago of like, okay, in Philly at the beginning, fell off, went to Colorado. That system probably fit him better, a little bit deeper with the game in front of you rather than pressing. Brendan Craig doesn't really make sense in the Philly system. I do like for players like him and McGlynn and even Paxton Aronson, playing in a pressing team means you have to learn those attributes plus the things you're good at. I think Craig will be a better player overall for it, but Austin's probably a cleaner fit. And if he plays well there, it'll be interesting to see what happens. For Austin FC, though, getting healthier as well, of course, always helps. I believe Pereira will be suspended this weekend for yellow card accumulation. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in central midfield in his place. Maybe Craig steps in there. Maybe it moves a center back higher up the field as well. We'll see what happens. But Austin FC, I think they're where they should be right now. So they're not going to be a team that's going to challenge at the top of the Western Conference because that boat has already sailed with the way their season's gone. And I don't think it matters. They're 5th right now in the West. Get yourself home games in the playoffs. Q2 Stadium is an elite situation. Challenge, I think, in Leagues Cup right now. Like, that's an opportunity for you now that you're finding your feet to sort of get the taste of CCL out of your mouth of like, no, we can compete at high levels in this continental competition and then come back into the season. So it feels like a really good time for Austin. Timu Pukki made his debut on the other side for Minnesota. Obviously not the night they were hoping for in a moment like that. But he should fix one of their big issues, which is they are one of the best creative teams. I think 3rd highest XG in the West, 2nd to last in goals scored. So that's kind of what Puki's there for. Yeah,
exactly. And Ismael Tujoy-Shradi made his debut as well. And Bakaye Dabasi made his first start. So again, like, a little bit of a work in progress again defensively, but it was the opposite for this team than with Austin. Like, I'm not necessarily worried about this team defensively. They've always been really combative and difficult to play against under Adrian Heath. Bakaye Dabasi, when he finds his form, he was one of the best defenders in the league last year before he got hurt. And they really, really missed him, and they've done well without him this year. So again, I'm not worried as much about them defensively as I am in the attack. And again, this is Pukki coming in off the bench, his first game. We'll see how this goes over a couple weeks. I think, did they play Wednesday?
Yes, I believe they play against LAFC at home.
No, they're playing St. Louis Wednesday.
Sorry, they play LAFC on the weekend.
Okay, so regardless, there's only one more week until the Leagues Cup break, or like the league play break for Leagues Cup. So we'll see where this team is at, I think, more in August than right now with these additions.
Dabasi called for a penalty in this one. I still don't understand the call. I would love for someone to explain it to me. I'm sure Minnesota fans feel the same. Adrian Heath definitely does not feel the same. He looked relaxed watching that game. Just kidding. So Dabasi back, huge move. The 2 additions getting their debut. Talking debuts, I think everyone knew we were going to go big here on RSL. Chicho Arango, his first opportunity at home, gets the opening goal on a set piece. RSL blows Orlando City out 4-0. So Arango now, I believe it's 52 career MLS games, 37 career goals in regular season MLS play. This is what they paid for. You could see how much it meant to him. He's been there all month, just like waiting to get on the field. And what I love about the goal is he basically stole it from Krylock. And like, Krylock doesn't care, right? Dami, it doesn't matter to him. But that's who Arango is. It's like, he's one of those players who's desperate to score goals.
Yeah, and again, this is exactly what this team needed. They have so many good, solid players around him, and you add a $6 million center forward to this group, and the idea is that everybody lifts, and that it makes the game easier for Damir Krylik. It makes the game easier for the wingers, and it makes it a larger margin of error for the midfield and the defense. Goals cost money, And this was an awesome signing for Real. So like it could not have been a better start to the summer.
Yeah.
Again, getting this deal done so early, and he's been in training this whole time. And then he gets his debut, he scores the opening goal, and you win 4-0. Like you could not have expected or hoped for anything better than like him having a hat trick. Like it couldn't have been any better for Real Salt Lake here.
It'll be interesting to see how much he drops in and creates in this group. I don't think he should.
Yeah.
Is my point of like, don't change your game.
Yep.
Do what you do best. Just because you are the DP now, just because they spent money on you, they spent it to do what you do
go
best.
Score goals.
Jefferson Savarino gets a goal in a moment in which I think will become more prevalent, which is if it's Krylak or Musovski or Rubin alongside Arango, they're going to attract attention, and there's going to be pullbacks to the back post that Andres Gomez or Diego Luna on one side, which is, I think, a question mark, which is fine. Like they both played well. Or Savarino on the other side, they're going to get easy looks, which is awesome. Nelson Palacio didn't play in this game, still registering, I think, getting visas, all that type of stuff. But Palacio comes in, Chicho Arango comes in, and I heard a report somewhere, whatever it is, this team over the course of these 7 months of this year have spent north of $10 million.
Yeah. Andres Gomez was $4 million. Nelson Palacio is $2 million. And then Chicho Arango is $6 million. That's 12 right there.
Boom.
They're going to have to spend money to keep Brian Ojeda as if they're able to keep which they want. And if they don't, they're going to bring in a replacement. So this is a team. This is what all Real Salt Lake fans were hoping for in the period where they did not have owners. And again, they made the playoffs. They made the conference finals one of those years without having owners and not being able to spend any money. And it's just a credit to Damir Krylak was really leading that group, Paulo Mastroeni, and again, the front office of Elliot Fall and Kurt Schmidt. Like, this is what everybody was waiting for. And I did a story kind of on the Chicho deal with co-owner Ryan Smith and Elliot Fall. Fall was saying that, like, look, like, even we were trying really hard to stay competitive, but also keep the flexibility for whenever we did get owners that we'd be able to go spend if they were ready. And again, so the new owners came in January 22. It was a little bit slower than I think people hoped for. Savarino came in late in that window, and that wasn't an insignificant fee. It was $3 million or whatever it was. And again, a proven player for not just the league, but for that team in his prime. And then this year, they've really kind of opened it up and been like, all right, Chicho, like one phone call for Chicho Arango, like let's go do it. So again, vibes are really high around Real Salt Lake right now, unlike Orlando City on the other side. After beating Toronto FC on the week last week 4-0, and now losing 4-0. So net zero there.
John Rollins says, how about you cover Orlando City's 4-0 loss in the next episode? Win or loss? We just want to hear your opinions on us every now and then. We all know you talk about Chicho and RSL for at least 20 minutes. I don't think we've hit that long yet.
I think we have a couple more RSL topics.
So maybe you can throw us a little scrap for Orlando. Yeah, let's go back to RSL in the middle of that. Shout out John Rollins for the tweet. We appreciate you. They've made those signings. They've put Pablo Mastroeni in charge. There's a ton of depth there now. Rumors around George Bello as well, which would throw Andrew Brody back to right back, whatever it is. It'd be more talent coming into the team, more options. They are currently tied for third in the Western Conference with LAFC, games in hand, whatever. It's a bit of a mess. Either way, they're like clearly in the top four of the Western Conference. What should be the expectation? Like, what should we set a mark now of RSL has to do this year?
Contend for trophies, whether it's the Open Cup, which they're hosting a semifinal.
Oh yeah,
Leagues Cup, and being top four in the West. Like this team, and again, particularly even before the ownership was a question mark, they've always been the underdog because they've even previous ownerships before it was in flux wasn't spending very much. They're overlooked. They'll say they're overlooked in Utah. All this stuff, like we're not LA or New York or Miami. People don't pay attention to us. Well, right now you do have the expectations, and you should have the expectations. This is a very good team who added again, Chicho Arango, one game in, things are looking pretty good. And I think that this move was widely celebrated by people around the league as like, wow, that makes a whole lot of sense. Good for them. Really good player, really good fit, all that. There are expectations for this team. They should be going into the Leagues Cup with expectations. They should be they should be disappointed if they don't continue on in the Open Cup. Like this is a real chance to bring home a trophy, and there are a lot of fans coming out to the stadium. Yeah, again, things are very good, but that comes with expectations. There is no more shucks, like we lost to LAFC in the playoffs, but they're LAFC and we're just little old Real Salt Lake. Like no, like they need to finish in the top four in the West, and they need to be contending for these other trophies and then make a run in the playoffs. Like all of these things are on the board because this team is very, very good. They have a good coach, a good structure, all of that. Like I'm speaking very highly of Real Salt Lake, and I have a lot of expectations for them for the rest of the season.
I think that's fair. I think when you look at the Leagues Cup group they have, which is Seattle, Monterrey, well, your first reaction is it's tough, go Sounders. But they're the home team. So they play Seattle at home. There are 3 teams in every group. Many of them have 2 MLS teams. And so one MLS team will have to travel to another MLS team. Seattle will obviously host Monterrey, but RSL gets to host both those games. So at altitude, you've talked about how electric the atmosphere has been, the crowds they've gotten. And historically, RSL, even if you take away the CCL final run from back in the day, they have challenged against Liga MX clubs at a higher level than maybe expected. There's always been like an internal confidence to them when they play in CCL, when they've played in the past version of Leagues Cup as well. And so I do have expectations. Then you talk about a team that didn't have owners, made a Western Conference Finals 2 years ago. I thought they outplayed Austin last year in the playoffs. They obviously took the lead. Rubio Rubin gets the red card, and then it falls apart. But you are a knockout team.
Yeah.
They're very good in knockout competition. So now you add Arango. Now you have Savarino there for a little while. You add Andres Gomez. I think it's fair to have expectations of this team in Leagues Cup and Open Cup. And I think it's a good opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And a chance to sort of like put it down early of like, we made the moves, we're for real. And then you get yourself into an MLS Cup conversation if you can have some success. So they should be one of the teams circling this tournament. And I think they could be really dangerous in it as well. Of course, that's coming up in about 2 weeks. Leagues Cup right after the MLS All-Star Game, the first time ever. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, MLS Season Pass on Apple TV will have it. We will have your coverage. MLS 360 will be around. I don't know. Everything else. We're all covering it. It's what's happening. It's going to be a big deal. It's going to be really fun to watch.
Do you want to talk about Orlando a little bit?
Do you?
Yeah, I think we should. Because, again, like that was a really good win against Toronto, against a bad team. But, again, you beat the team that you're supposed to beat 4-0. And then they go to Salt Lake and lose 4-0. And, like, in a weird way for a team to win 4-0 and lose 4-0, wildly unsurprising. This is what this team has been. They have high highs and low lows. They are the only consistent thing about them is that they're inconsistent.
Right.
They are difficult to talk about sometimes because I'm really high on their talent. You made fun of me for how much I said it in the offseason. Like, I think Facundo Torres, Martin Ojeda, like that, the starting point for that attack is really strong. The starting point for their defense with Pedro Gallese, Antonio Carlos, Rodrigo Schlegel, and Robin Janssen, and again, the central midfield, that's really strong. Like, this team should be more consistent. I think Oscar Pereira is a fantastic coach. I don't understand why they're so inconsistent, and I don't understand why things look constipated sometimes in attack when there's so much talent. And
that's a great word.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So it's almost this is how I talked about Real Salt Lake last year. Maybe not to the talent thing, but sometimes it's like I don't understand. It's like how can they go into Seattle and have this result, but then they're at home against Chicago and struggle, right? Like this is one of those teams that it's almost like a classic MLS team in the middle of the table who, again, like in a month from now, if they ripped off 3 wins and a loss, they'd be like, I could see that because of all this talent. Oh, it's finally starting to come together. But we're more than halfway through the season now, almost 2/3, right? And this was what it was like last year under Oscar Pereira. Like, this is what it's been. And again, I don't know how they rectify it. I'm not entirely sure or what the expectations are. This is why this team it could be a good cup team. They won the Open Cup because for a month they can get hot. Like, there's another team that should be looking at the Leagues Cup and being like, why not us? Like, they played it really well against Tigres.
They did play well against Tigres.
But like, again, translating to league play, it's just so inconsistent. It's so weird. And they're going to be at an inflection point this offseason because Oscar Pereira's contract is up and sporting director Luis Muzzi and technical director Ricardo Moreira, their contracts, there's a club option for next year. So like if ownership was like, screw it, let's move on. Or if like either one of Moreira or Muzzi was like, like maybe I want to move on. Like there's a point where there could be a lot of change here. Again, I think that front office is really, really good. And they should try to keep that together. But it's just something to consider that there could be some flux. And it's like, again, looking at this team, it makes sense when you look at it, when you think about it. And then in the games, like this happened, 4-0 win, 4-0 loss. And I don't understand.
So the reason I was a little bit, and I didn't think the moves were bad for Orlando in the offseason. I just didn't think they'd hit as quickly as all of you kept saying, all of you being you and Weeby.
Yeah.
And I feel like
I was definitely leading this, to be fair. You don't even need to hit Weeby.
I think I've been vindicated on this as well, which
you thought you were vindicated after the first game of the season. I was getting texts from you about like, oh, why didn't they hang a banner tonight, Tom?
Championship team. But Martin Ojeda, a 24-year-old coming from Argentina, that is not a player in the model that signing was made in MLS history that has been consistent. So the complaint of inconsistency, when you add another inconsistent but talented piece that normally doesn't shift that. And like, yeah, if you're going to pay for Thiago Almada and pay $22 million and like you're going to get consistent performances, or if you choose to shift things a little bit and get a 28 or 29-year-old, you're going to get consistency. That's not what Orlando did. And so they kind of leaned back into the issues they've had. They have elite talent. It is shocking to see them with the lineup they were able to put out there lose 4-0.
Yeah.
Like, it's shocking to see.
Again, we also like our very good team. Like, we just went off, but like
fantastic.
4-0
But
on the road.
Jansen, Cartagena, Araujo, Antonio Carlos,
Yeah, like, that's
and Gaese.
fine.
If you have those players on the field, you should not be giving up 4 goals to anyone. So that's a little bit surprising there as well. This is a club that's won 1 playoff game ever. Like, in their entire history, they've won 1 playoff game. They've had some good cup runs, and MLS is back, and of course, winning the Open Cup. But that's where Orlando sits.
Yeah.
They have not consistently been a good team in Major League Soccer, and they're kind of back.
We haven't gotten the big step from Facundo Torres that I was expecting. With three of his 7 goals are from the penalty spots. Again, those all count. But again, I think he had 9 and 10 last year. I was expecting 12 and 12, or give or take, right? Like something closer to maybe not a goal contribution every single game, but if he starts 30 games, then to have 24 goal contributions, and it hasn't happened yet. So
we're complimentary of RSL, the transfers they made, what they've done. Let's go to the other side of things here a little bit. Felipe Cardenas putting out an article in The Athletic. I don't know if you've heard of it. About Franco Ibarra, who was sent on loan to Toronto FC from Atlanta. Let me just read some of this article.
Spoiler alert, Franco Ibarra was not happy about it.
No, Franco's pretty upset. According to Ibarra, Bocanegra agreed to discuss the matter with him on Thursday morning at 8:30. Ibarra arrived at the club at 7 a.m. like he always does. He put on his training gear, prepared to train, but was instructed to head home instead. Quote, I was told that I didn't need to change because I was already a Toronto player, that Atlanta had closed the deal, said Ibarra. Carlos told me that he was really sorry. He said he needed to cut the roster down. I reiterated that I wouldn't go to Toronto. It doesn't benefit me at all from a football standpoint. It's obvious where Toronto is at this moment versus Atlanta. In the end, it's me who has to pick up the pieces for the club or for Carlos or whoever, said Ibarra. I finally told him that if I had to go because of the U22 rule, fine, I'll do it. But let me go to a club that'll benefit me. I told him I didn't want to leave Atlanta. I'm good here, and we have a chance to fight for the league. And we're a different team than we were last year.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah, and I think that the one that hits it for me is in the end, it's me who has to pick up the pieces for the club or Carlos or whoever. Franco Ibarra has to leave because Atlanta currently have 4 U22 initiative players and teams are only allowed up to 3. The only why he's leaving is because nobody wants the other 3 players that they've spent more than
3 players. The box is out in front of the driveway. No one wants to pick one.
That they've been a grand total of like $10 million in transfer fees between Santiago Sosa, Edwin Mosquera, and Eric Lopez. Santi Sosa had a good first season in MLS, I thought. He has regressed. He's not starting very much. I think he has 7 starts this year. Eric Lopez, and he was a $5 million signing from River Plate, highly rated.
We're talking about what would be the record signing for the Colorado Rapids that we're approaching.
And like easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was just, so there should have been there was high expectations for him, and it hasn't worked out. Eric Lopez, Paraguayan, signed, I believe it was $2 or $3 million. They've been trying to give him away since they signed that deal. He's been on loans, and he's been, again, offers, everything. There was a move that fell apart because either he declined, whatever happened. They've been trying to give him away. He's made 1 MLS appearance this year. And
Atlanta United 2 legend, Eric Lopez.
So those are 2 of your 3 U22 high-level U22 initiative slots. The third is Edwin Mosquera. When they already had these other players that they're trying to give away and can't give away, they signed Edwin Mosquera at the end of last season before Garth Lagerwey takes over. So Darren Neal's already left. They're in a search for a new president, and they use a high-leverage transfer slot on a winger who's never had a professional goal. And I feel bad, like I'm dumping on Edwin Mosquera. It's not his fault that he was signed,
right?
That they misused the roster for him. But the reason why Franco Ibarra is leaving is because nobody wanted these 3 other players. Edwin Mosquera was on loan in Argentina. He wasn't playing at all. And so he returned earlier than expected. So now they have 4 instead of 3, and they need to get rid of Ibarra because he's the only one who had any value around the league. And like, I do feel bad for Ibarra in this situation because it's not his fault. Like, it's just tough. And again, while I'm saying all these negative things, this time last year, their roster cap sheet, budget, all that stuff, just terrible spot.
Yeah.
Garth Lagerwey hinted as much in so many words when he said, this offseason, I think 17 players have left since the end of last season. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of like Zico Barco, he was still technically on loan to River Plate. That went official. Another bit, right? Like Luis Araujo, he hasn't worked out. He left this summer. In the winter, they used a buyout on Joseph Martinez. They mutual termination with Emerson Hyndman. Like Dom Dwyer was waived. You go down the list, like that's a lot of money that they were able to free up and a lot of flexibility. They brought in Giacomakis. Been an awesome signing, just perfect. And a perfect fit with Thiago Mata, and he'll be a perfect fit, I think, for any high-level attacking player that they bring in the future. Derek Etienne, another one. He works really well with this group. They're bringing in a French midfielder, Tristan Muyomba, and he's expected to be like his TAM player. He's going to be a high-level starter. And I guess that helped to like, all right, like if we have to lose Ibarra, at least we have another center mid coming in. But so they're in a much better spot than they were a year ago, but there's still work to be done. When you look at, again, they had to give away a starter because they couldn't give away other players. And then on the horizon, you have Miles Robinson's contract that's coming up. The longer he goes without signing a contract, the more likely it is that he's going to leave because he wants DP money, and they're not looking to give it, apparently, or he probably would have signed a contract. Who knows? But you're staring down the barrel of probably losing a Defender of the Year caliber player because he's got interest in England and Germany. Thiago Almada is, if they keep him until the winter, that's a win. Just to the winter, rather than losing him now. So they're going to have to replace him at some point, and so many good. So like things are much better, but this week was a reminder that, oh yeah, they still have a lot of work to do.
I mean, the Andrew Grootman trade as well. Like they got decent value, but that was
they would have gotten more if they traded him in the winter.
And it clearly was, we just need assets. Like we cannot afford to have Andrew Grootman on our roster, not because he doesn't make us better, but because we need other things to help try and make us even better, like pie in the sky in the end. And I don't even think Franco Ibarra has been very good, but the dysfunction and chaos of you're getting nothing for a starter versus these three other guys because you couldn't plan your moves out properly just shows to go the issues. I'll leave it on this one. Ibarra finished the article saying, "I'm from the streets," Ibarra continued. "If I have to go to Toronto alone without anyone else and sleep on the floor somewhere, I'll do it. But I have a family that I have to support and make sure that they're happy. That's the worst part about all of this. It sucks for Ibarra. I promise you, Toronto in the summer, like you're not going to be sleeping on the floor anywhere.
But in the winter, he might have to sleep on the floor.
No, but like Toronto in the summer, you're going to love it, man. Like you're going to have a great time. The team, obviously not super cohesive, but no offense, Atlanta, not really either. So,
well, Atlanta's in like fourth, so I understand it when he's
Atlanta in fourth in the West in the Eastern Conference.
They're somewhere up there compared to.
I don't know. They're 11th, but I might be looking at the wrong list. This is probably not done by points right now. It's been a chaotic.
They're in fifth in the East.
There you go.
3 points behind second place. So like again, they're in a solid spot.
Oh, you know why? I'm looking at 2022.
I saw. I was like, it had like a little X next.
Spoilers: they were bad in 2022. Franco, you'll be good. I promise. Toronto's a gorgeous place. The fans are great. It's going to be fun.
Should have had you in the recruiting pitch.
I could be the recruiting pitch for Toronto. I do not think that they like me so much right now. Anything else that stands out for you transfer wise that you want to talk about before we move on?
As I had been reporting, when official today, the New England Revolution signed Argentine forward Tomás Chancalay from Racing Club. He's on loan right now, and there's an option to extend the loan for another 6. So the loan is supposed to end at the end of the season. There's an option to extend for 6 months, or there's a purchase option, and that purchase option, if they trigger it, would make him a DP, and that would put them in a bad spot because they already have 3 DPs. But Gustavo Bou's contract is up at the end of the season. There's rumors about whether he'll go back to Argentina, or maybe if he could stay on a non-DP deal. There's that, but so. I don't think that New England are too worried about having 4 DPs for 3 slots if he stays, if he plays. Like he was on loan in Dubai, I believe, and he was playing. He's playing the wing, and he can also play through the center. So he's a high level attacker, potentially a DP attacker if they do keep him. Justin Che, FC Dallas U.S. Youth National Team defender, has interest from Brøndby. They're one of several clubs that are trying. I've heard that there have been offers from clubs that there's nothing agreed between Dallas and anyone else, but there are several teams in Brøndby. Could be a good fit to go to a league if he's playing regularly, where like it'll be good for his development.
There is no one I have talked to, whether it's you, whether it's people in Dallas or other teams, that think there's any chance Justin Che plays for Dallas. So it's not if he goes, it's just where he goes.
That's how it's been described to me as well. And like but he made like 20 appearances between his 2 loans. He was on loan to Bayern's first his U19 team, then they promoted him to the second team. And then before he went on loan to Hoffenheim, he spent like half a season playing. Yeah. And I thought it then too, but so I try to be careful with
that. But the thing about it is like that's not the need for Dallas. Like they've started 3 center backs the last 2 games. I think they're fairly comfortable with those 3 right now. So it's not like they're coming to it and saying, hey man, we're dying for a center back. come in and be a starter, they're not going to send him somewhere else in MLS like Brandon Craig type.
And he wants to go to Europe. But like,
so it makes sense. Yeah. It's just a question of where he ends up. Unfortunately, he's not like a center forward or an attacking 10 because that would work out pretty well for Dallas to fall in their lap a James Sands move that ended up happening or whatever, where you're forced into it. Cifuentes, you wanted to finish with?
Yeah. LAFC and Rangers have had official talks about Cifuentes leaving now rather than in the winter. Again, I don't even know what the correct phrasing would be, but I'm overwhelmingly expecting Jose Cifuentes to be playing for Rangers, and I am also expecting that to be this summer rather than the winter when his contract expires. We'll see if they can agree to terms for like LAFC to get a smaller fee to let him go now rather than leaving for free in the winter. And then this coming out today that reports in Qatar and then confirmed by Manuel Veth that Hani Mukhtar has an offer from a Qatari-based team. I have no reason to doubt that that's true, but what I would say is I'd be shocked if Nashville didn't fight to keep him, and like I know that they will, and two, I'd be shocked if Mukhtar really, really wanted to go. We talked about this. Hani Mukhtar got married on Geodis Park. He started a youth academy in Nashville. This dude is Nashville through and through. Yeah. Nashville lifer at this point.
He's a Bashville guy.
Again, money changes things, whatever. But like, I'm just saying, I don't deal in absolutes, so I'm not going to necessarily say 0%. But for them, this would have to be just something groundbreaking, and him saying, "I desperately want to leave." There's no way that Nashville would do this without him saying, "I desperately want to leave." And even then, they might be like, sorry. But like, I don't see either party wanting to stop this. Again, it would have to be some incomprehensible amount of money.
So I agree with you. I'm going to operate under the assumption Hani Mukhtar is staying. Yeah. And I'm going to do so and then saying, we just came through a full show. We've talked about a couple big moves, teams that have handled transfer windows well and poorly. The biggest one being RSL with Chicho Arango, where Arango trained for the last month, just dying to get on the field and scored within 20 minutes. And you have to ask the question of what Nashville's doing. They bought out Aki Loba after the last window closed, so they couldn't do anything there. But well before this window, and you step on the field, the fact that you stepped on the field after July 5th when the window was officially open without a signing done, and maybe they're not ready to play immediately like Bupenza, but like, what are we waiting for? Hani, I think he's got 21 goals / assists of their 30 goals they've scored. He can't do any more. You add in, you knew Godoy was going to the Gold Cup. You knew Zimmerman was going to play Nations League. Like, you know, these guys are national team players. You can compete for Supporter Shield. Mm-hmm. You should compete for Leagues Cup. You should compete for MLS Cup this year. Let's say Hani, his head gets turned from the Qatar move and he does end up leaving. You've got enough production out of him. You have not taken advantage of this season if you are not prepared to bring that next piece in. We're not hearing any rumors. We're not hearing any connections. That's fine if that's how they operate and they're get the deal done.
Definitely trying very hard. I can tell you as somebody who makes a living trying to find this information out, it's a concerted effort to not.
Which is great. It's like get the move done, but it's July 10th.
That's so my surprise.
You can't look me in the eyes anymore and say, no, you just don't know, but it's going to get done. Like, you've already wasted a week. You're every game you're wasting points. You lost 1-0 to the Chicago Fire. Hani Mukhtar had help in that game. Maybe you get a result. Maybe you get a win. So I think it's frustrating that when you talk about the teams that have gotten these moves done and gotten guys in the door, the Revs, Dylan Barrero gets hurt and they still have time to get a deal done before Nashville's talking about anything here. I think that there's reason to be frustrated. I think Nashville fans have been frustrated. We're hearing it a lot. So there's that out there. Final one, just to mention, Michelle Kaufman putting out of Miami that she's hearing that Rodolfo Pizarro could be headed to Greece to reunite with his former Chivas coach, who of course is also the former San Jose Earthquakes coach, Matias Almeida. They've been connected to like a lot of MLS players. I don't think they've actually acquired one, right? Like Benji Kokanovic was a rumor.
They tried.
Yeah, there was a couple other as well. It's Ike Athens or it's Pauk?
AEK. Is it supposed to be Ike?
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. Big money owners, though, willing to bring in pieces. Inter Miami, it feels like just can't have Pizarro on the roster. We'll see what happens. LA Galaxy have been connected.
The quick thing for that is what I would do if I was Miami is, so if you need to free up the DP spot, there's two ways you do that. You either buy down Leo Campana from his young DP, or you buy out, get a trade transfer, whatever, for Rodolfo Pizarro. I think that you should do the getting rid of Pizarro, because that you could still have 3 U22 initiative players. And Tata Martino has a lot of pull in South America. And again, if they're going to spend money, you can add 3 players to a team that desperately needs depth. So again, like while like Pizarro, and he's been pretty good over the last few weeks, but like
he's been on the field.
It's been better.
I'll say that.
Yeah, so
he has played.
So yeah,
I'm not willing to go that far.
It's more important for me for them to have 3 U22 initiative players than it would be to find a way to keep Pizarro. This is if I was.
Yeah. The Galaxy would love a free player if they can get one. We'll see what happens there. Let's get into the midweek. Let's get into the big game. LAFC, 3rd in the Western Conference, hosting St. Louis, 1st in the Western Conference. You're talking about last year's Supporters Shield winner, last year's MLS Cup winner, last year's Western Conference champion against this year's Western Conference leader. It's the first time ever these two teams go up against each other. For St. Louis, this is as big a game as they could create. This is what they wanted, right? This is the moment as you build through to say, we don't want to just hang around as an expansion team. We want to compete. Now you've got a chance with LAFC on 3 straight losses, haven't won in their last 4, struggling. Everything's on short rest for LAFC all the time, that you get to go into their building and try and beat them. Like, this is as big a game as St. Louis could have in a regular season.
Yeah, and as we were talking about off the top of the show, I'm really fascinated by this matchup because they have 2 defined styles. And this is a St. Louis team who, again, when Klaus went out, it was supposed to be shorter term than it was. And we were like, all right, maybe they can get through a couple weeks without him. And then they've been fine. Like, they're obviously much better with Klaus.
They fell off and then they've recovered.
And that's really, really impressive. Like, and then when Leuven went down as well, the fact that they're still picking up points, it's a credit to both the system and really to Bradley Carnell and the rest of the squad. But like, I've been just blown away by this team about how there is, again, Klaus and Leuven. Like, when Sporting Kansas City last year were missing their DP9 and DP10, they tanked because that's what happens in this league when even if you're missing 1 DP, let alone 2, and how good those 2 players had been for this team. So I'm very curious to see. Bradley Carnell says Edward Leuven might be back. You, I know, are a little bit dubious of that, whether it's or not.
No, never.
Well,
I'm just saying they told me Klaus was out 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And like me and Klaus, I texted his mom. I was like, I'm still praying, and he just hasn't been around.
So yeah, I'm really excited for this game. Yeah, and I think that LAFC are limping towards their little break because they don't have to play in the Leagues Cup group.
They are going to get, we calculated today, I believe they're going to get 19 days off or 20 days off between their next game, which is against Minnesota at Minnesota, and what will be on August 2nd, their knockout game, because they have a bye through the group stage of the Leagues Cup as MLS Cup champions.
So in a way, while they're in a bad run of form, one, they're at home, they're very good no matter what, and like they're still playing fine. And they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, we have got 2 more games, push through this, then we get a break. Like, I know that we've been playing every 3rd day for the last 4 months, essentially. So like that, I think will make it more difficult for St. Louis. But again, I'm really looking forward to this game and the matchup between these teams.
And I think when you talk about the matchup between the teams for LAFC, I think you look at the last 4 games that I said they haven't won. It was a loss to Vancouver, a loss at Dallas, then obviously the Rose Bowl game, and then the tie against San Jose. I think they struggle more with teams who don't take the game. And while St. Louis doesn't want possession, they will dictate the tempo and the way the game's played. And that will force, I think, LAFC into the openings that make them comfortable.
And give them more space for Denny Bouanga, probably. Like,
there's, Bouanga's going to get his chances on the counterattack. Vela's probably going to get looks where he sits in that soft spot. Anytime Bouanga can stretch the back line, Vela's going to come underneath. If he can find moments where one of the center mids isn't tracking him or one of the fullbacks doesn't come out to step to him, now you're looking at Vela able to take shots. Berkey's obviously been elite this year. And that's why this matchup's fun, because everything you take away from me, I have a weapon that you now have to sort of challenge me against. We're talking, any set piece around the box, you're talking Berkey against Vela. Like, this is iron on iron, which is what we want to see. You don't always see this in MLS because sometimes teams play early in the season, then they go on a hot run, whatever it is. And St. Louis, it was a 4-game winless streak that they came out of. They've now put together 3 straight wins. They went to San Jose, which was that massive game. Then they beat Colorado at home. Congratulations. And then they went and beat Toronto. Congratulations as well. But like, that works out well. And it's to their credit that when they had Klaus and Leuven, they beat good teams in tough games to set themselves up where now without them, they can steal points off some of the teams on the bottom, and it's fine. So this is a big opportunity against LAFC. I think this is one of those games where you'll sort of walk away and say, they've set a tone. Remember Austin went to LAFC and won last year in like a weird midweek game. It wasn't Austin's style, but that was a moment where Weeby had to apologize for all his bonus game stuff and whatever that we did for 4 hours on this show over the course of the season. Those are the few moments where like everyone's watching and everyone is focused on these matchups, and it's a chance for St. Louis to sort of put on display what they can do and do it on the road. Because they haven't been bad on the road, but like everyone knows they have a great home field advantage. Can you go to BMO and do it in this one? So it's going to be really fun to watch. This is a massive one coming up on Wednesday night. As we said, St. Louis coming off that 1-0 win on the road. They go from Toronto to LA. So that's going to be a big trip for them. Let's finish off with this. The Eastern Conference. We've got some big matchups this weekend. This midweek. Montreal and Chicago, who are tied at 9th place on 26 points. They face off against each other on Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time at Soldier Field. And of course, on MLS Season Pass. There are currently 5 teams tied on 26 points for that 9th and final spot. So it's Montreal and Chicago, as I said. The Red Bulls, Charlotte are in that as well. And NYCFC is tied or they're behind?
They're tied on. They're on 26 points.
They're on 26 points as well.
They played the most games out of that group.
Right. They had the most. I knew there was something off about that. Those are the 5 teams. Do you have any belief in one of those specific teams?
No, dude, it's MLS. It's July. Like, what? Things are going to change as we go on. This is, again, and unlike in the West where it's jumbled from like, it was like 4th through like 11th, right? Yeah. Like this is
pretty much from RSL. RSL's in that league, and then everyone else.
This is 9th to 13th, so this is 5 teams you named, and that's 1 playoff spot. Again, like things can change. DC are only 4 points ahead, but 7th place is Orlando, who we were just giving a lot of stick to. They're still in 7th place. They're 8 points away from this little cluster. So it's going to be pretty wild because I think like Chicago wrote them off a while ago, and they're kind of back around the playoff line.
I think they've won 3 of their last 4.
Yeah. And again, things are turning around for them. Montreal have been hovering around this since that slow start. The Red Bulls or NYCFC are the 2 teams in this group that if they got their fastball are better than the other teams around them. But neither of these teams have proven that. Like the Red Bulls went out and signed club record center forward who was a Belgian international in his prime who was playing scoring goals in Belgium for fun. Like that was what I thought the last piece to take this team that was very good, strong, all competitive, like the RSL thing. A lot of good things about them, didn't have that one marquee player. Banzier, outside of his suspension, doesn't really start for this team. So that's been a very big indictment. New York City FC, they've needed a center forward. Everybody's known that they've needed a center forward since Tati Castellanos left this time last year, and they didn't sign one in the summer, didn't sign one in the winter, didn't sign one in the spring when the transfer window was still open. And it was very clear that they needed a center forward, and they still have not yet. So those are the 2 teams that I would say talent-wise, they should be there.
Yeah.
But it's been more than half season, closer to 2/3 of the season. Like I don't have any confidence that either one of them will figure it out. And Charlotte FC, they've done a lot of things well. 2-0 lead against Cincinnati. Things are looking good. Oh, maybe they're going to turn the corner. No, 2-2. Draw for the 5th game in a row. They give up too many goals. So all these teams have a lot of flaws, but I would go back to the 2 teams that I do think, if they figure it out, are the best. And again, I don't know if they're going to, so I would lean Red Bulls and NYC.
What's interesting in the combo is Red Bulls, the pieces are there. It's can they put it together and play that way, where NYC, the pieces aren't there.
Yeah.
And
one specific piece is not
well,
there.
Center back's been a hole as well.
Yeah.
And if center back's a hole and Sands is there and has to play center back, then central midfield becomes a bit of an issue as well.
Yep.
So I do think it's more than one piece.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's hard with NYC because they have historically just like thrown a bunch of moves in where it's like they know these players better than we do. They bring them in. I don't know that this is as fixable in the flow of this year, where for the Red Bulls, it just felt like you had the whole culture shift. You had Gerhard Struber, whatever it is. It feels like at some point they're going to sort of find their feet. And at a minimum, it feels like a higher floor that they can sneak in.
And they're defensively really, really good.
Yes. So. Which will keep you in games. Cornell's elite as well. I really like Montreal. They've come on. When you look at their schedule, they've got a lot of not easier games, but more winnable games. They have a lot at home because they started on the road.
They've played one more road game. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have a lot of games at home against teams in this convo too. So you're talking about getting to face NYC and Chicago and Columbus and Red Bulls, and you get to do it at home. They've got a Poku coming in. There's connections to other players as well. They're young. It's their first year under Losada. They feel like they're solidifying every week you watch them.
They're getting better. Yeah, they're definitely trending that.
So of these teams, I have the most confidence in Montreal to get there.
That's fair.
I don't know that their ceiling will ever be, if they sneak in, they could beat anyone and go on a run. Where some of these other teams, maybe even a Chicago, potentially a Charlotte, if they sneak in, you're like, Swiderski can get goals against everyone. You know, if Capetti gets healthy, like they can be dangerous. With Chicago, obviously, you know, Gutierrez and the quality they have and the way Kai's played. I don't know that I put Montreal this year in that convo, but I feel like with the run they have a really good shot to make the postseason.
Inter Miami 8 points below the line. Just feel like we're contractually obliged to say that, and hopefully at some point there will be some official news to the Messi reports all this. But like that's going to be fun to watch them trying to climb. I hope that they stick around the playoff line longer than Toronto did last year. By the end of the season, it was like, oh, they're done. So
one of the things that's going to be funny about this season is anyone who plays Inter Miami after Leagues Cup, it's going to be like, I really wish we had Inter Miami before. Like Charlotte plays them twice.
Oh, no.
Which is brutal. But we were looking at the schedules earlier and we were talking about Montreal versus Chicago. And it's like Chicago hosts Inter Miami. Montreal already hosted Inter Miami. Mm-hmm. Great. Now Messi at Soldier Field, that's like a whole different monster that Chicago has to deal with. Yep. And it's kind of like we've talked about, like, and you go to Colorado, you kind of have to get points because everyone else has gotten points there. It's not a place that's easy to win, but other people have. And if you want to keep, you have to. Inter Miami obviously haven't gotten a ton of results. So anyone who faces them coming up, my assumption is if they get Lionel Messi, they'll be better than they are. I could be wrong.
What a take.
It's MLS.
What a take.
Things have happened before. So with that note, thank you all for watching. Thank you to Maria. Thank you to Anders. Thank you to Thomas, everyone else involved. Thank you to Tom as well. You could follow him. Michelle. Shout out to Michelle who liked my hat. She lied about it, but she liked it. I just was feeling a hat today. Tom, you can follow at The Athletic. I don't know. If you don't and you listen to this show, you live in a unique space and I appreciate you and maybe don't change it, but you should probably follow him as well. Andrew Wiebe will be back at some point. Happy birthday to him. Kalen Carr, Doyle, Kalen Kyle, everyone else as well. But with that, that is the end of our show. Thank you all for listening.